Hi, everybody. This is John Farian with Live Large Universe. And you guys, I'm really, really excited about tonight's show. We've got Amy David here, got Lisa here as well, too. Appreciate you guys both being here tonight. How are you guys doing tonight?
Wonderful.
Good.
Happy to be here.
That's awesome. That's awesome. So we got a little bit of business to take care of as we get the show rolling here. So obviously we got the show going live. We want to encourage people who are coming in and watching the show to go in the comments, let us know where you're watching from, and then also be sure to share the show out. And when you share the show out, you will be eligible to win this amazing backcountry first aid kit from Mountain Lab. So Mountain Lab is one of our show sponsors. They put this first aid kit up for grabs, and it's yours if you share it out. And your name is one of the lucky ones who are drawn. So appreciate you guys again going in the comments. Let us know where you're watching from. And then come on back and share the show out as we get things rolling. So we're going to bounce back here in a second, talk a little bit about Avalanche Alliance Sweepstakes. But, real quick, Amy, where are you tuning in from tonight? What state and city are you in tonight?
I'm in Craig, Colorado right now.
Very good, very good. And how about you, Lisa?
I am in southern Idaho right now.
Awesome, awesome. And so we're going to talk a little bit about the Avalanche Alliance Sweepstakes, and I think we'll talk a little bit more about it in detail tonight. But I'm excited because part of the reason we're even here talking tonight is because the two of you have both benefited from the Avalanche Alliance Sweepstakes and have been able to take advantage of the scholarships through ARI that we've put together with the funding from the thing. And so I bet you guys are super stoked about this sweepstakes every year and what it's meant for you guys, right?
Yeah, for
Yeah,
sure.
Awesome, awesome. And I
yeah,
think yeah, when I bumped into you guys at the Heydays booth, you guys were actually in the BCA booth, and so that's one of the prize packs that we actually have this year is the BCA kit. So I'm assuming you guys both ride with BCA kit. What's your favorite BCA gear that you like to ride with? Like, what's your favorite gear pack piece of gear that you have?
Lisa, go ahead.
I've been wearing the vest, the Mountain Pro vest, because I love the chest protection. I used to break so many ribs
Oh
snowmobiling
my gosh.
that oh yeah, since I started wearing that, I haven't broken a single rib. I love it. I love the pockets. And where I live, it's very cold, so it's actually an extra layer for me. I've been using the Tracker 3 beacon, and it just works amazing. I love all of their gear.
Yep. And how about you, Amy?
Same as Lisa, I just started using the Mountain Pro vest this year, and I hit the handlebars quite a bit as well. And so having that extra chest protection has been really nice. And then I also love the new BCA Link radio, the smaller yellow one. It
Yeah.
doesn't get packed with snow quite as much if you're on a deeper day. Use the Tracker 4, and then I love having the dozer shovel. It's a little heavier duty, but so if you're on your sled, the extra little bit of extra weight doesn't really matter, but it has a saw in the handle.
Nice.
So if you run into a tree like we do, it's nice to have that saw easy to pull out and get yourself unstuck.
I don't know about you guys, but like when I ride, those trees just jump right out in front of me sometimes. So
It's the trees. It's got to be
it's
the
the trees.
trees.
There's like they just jump out in front of you. Like it's not our fault. It's those darn trees. They just jump right out in front of you. So with that, let's talk a little bit more about the Avalanche Alliance sweepstakes. So everybody, just so you know, in the chat down below, or not in the chat, but in the show description, you're actually going to find a link. And one of our show sponsors, Marlon, is providing a link for 30% extra tickets available. And you guys, we're down to like, I think it's like 20, 21 days to go. And so we're less than a month away. December 8th is the final weekend or the final day that you can still buy tickets. We've got the Arctic Cat Snowmobile is going to be up for grabs this year. It's kind of our grand prize. Marlon Sled Deck, worth about $6,000, is going to be our first place prize, technically. Grand prize, then first place prize. And then we have a full head to toe gear from Klim that's available. That's going to be the next prize. And then finally, the BCA kit that the ladies here both ride with themselves. A lot of amazing gear there. So amazing, amazing prizes. All the money that we raise goes to Avalanche Scholarship Program, which again, we're going to talk more about tonight. And then also the Avalanche Center not scholarships, but grants. And so all the Avalanche centers in the U.S. have the ability to apply for grants for motorized programs that they're running in their individual states against the money that we have here too. And so this year, I really, really need your guys' help to share the show out, buy some tickets. We're actually way behind compared to previous years on where we're at. I think the bad snow season last year, the economy, all of the things are adding up, and people are a little bit slower to buy tickets this year. So we could use all the help we can get to get everybody's support with that. So one more time for the people who are watching, go in the comments. Let us know where you're watching from. I see we got Snowmobile, Wisconsin here. They're from Wisconsin. Imagine that. And then we've got Brian Brumwell here is from Liberty Lake, Washington, out near Spokane. We got Sody Clay here is from NorCal. We got Billy Siebert here from Pocatello, Idaho. Mark Waite from Ellensburg, Washington. So we got more people coming in right now. Just continue to let us know where you're watching from. Share the show out. Get in on the contest. Buy some raffle tickets or some sweepstakes tickets. So with that, it's time. It's show time. How are you guys doing? Are you excited for this? I am.
Definitely.
Yeah, doing
Awesome.
good. It was so great to see you at Heydays and get
Yeah.
the chance to sing back up.
Yeah, it was funny. I think that's a good reflection point we'll start with is, we had connected at Heydays, and I was walking around the booth kind of doing what I do, just, chatting with people, and I was actually looking at some of the new BCA equipment that was there. I think the new transceiver that's kind of smaller, lighter, the new radio that's there, and some of the features there. And I think, Amy, I think maybe you were the first one that walked up to me at first. I can't remember who it was, but one of you guys walked up first. We started talking, and all of a sudden you said, like, oh, yeah, over here too. And we started talking about the scholarship and everything too. And all of a sudden it started clicking to me who you guys were a little bit. So that's awesome. I appreciate the ability to check in and say hi. How was Heydays for you guys? Did you have a good Heydays?
Oh yeah, it's so much fun. I love seeing everyone, all the vendors. It gets the energy ready for winter. Everybody's excited. It just feels like the kickoff to the season every year.
Yep, yep. And how about you, Amy?
Yeah, it was great. It was actually my first Heydays, and so having Lisa as my guide was really handy. Yeah, so she was great. We cruised around to some of the different booths and got to meet some people, and
Yeah.
it was fun to interact with all the diehard sledders that are out in the Midwest. It was amazing. Really
Yeah,
fun.
for those who go to Hades for the very first time, it's a pretty big eye opener. I mean, you hear about it. Like, tell me what your vision of Hades was versus the reality of what you experienced. Give us some comparisons, Amy.
Well, I've been in the outdoor industry for a long, long time, and have gone to
Yeah,
Outdoor Retailer and a lot of different expos and whatnot, and so I just assumed it was like a sledder version of that, but it's completely different when you get there and the whole swap meet scene that's going on, and
yeah,
yeah, it's wild. But I loved it. It was great to see every different type of person that might
yep,
love sledding.
yeah,
So like living in a small mountain town, I'm exposed to like a certain type of snowmobiler, and going there, you get to see the full breadth of people that love the same sport. And so having that shared passion was a neat thing to experience.
yeah. Like I've been to a number of snow shows across the country, different places, and yeah, there's absolutely nothing that compares to Heydays. It's quite the extravaganza. And so, how about Lisa for you? How many years have you been at Heydays, or have you gone? Is this just a couple of years, or has it been quite a long tradition for you?
No, this was my second year going.
Okay,
Last year was my first, so it was pretty exciting to finally get to do that. I've always wanted to, but it's a
yeah,
pretty big trip. It's a long ways, so
gotcha.
I was really excited to get to go the last couple of years.
Very nice. What was the probably biggest surprise for you, Lisa, when you think of Heydays and the thing that you saw at Heydays that you were like, oh my goodness, I can't believe they have this here or that I got to see this?
I think I think just the number of people and vendors that show up there, because out west the snow shows are kind of slowly getting smaller and
Yeah.
smaller, and that is definitely not getting smaller. It just seems like it's as full force as it probably has always been.
That's awesome. That's awesome. So the two of you were brought together by what I like to call the universe. We're talking about Live Large Universe here tonight. That's what we do. So just reminding everybody what Live Large, I tell everybody means, which is live life to the fullest, make the most of every day, and make a difference to others. And so that's the Live Large Universe I talk about when I talk about Live Large Universe. But the universe brought the two of you together as well, too. I think, Amy, you were going to talk a little bit about how you guys, or no, I was actually, Lisa, I think, was going to talk a little bit about like how you guys originally met, and then Amy, you're going to follow up with maybe more how you guys got to be a little closer after a specific trip. So Lisa, go for it. Tell us a little bit about how you initially met Amy.
Yeah, I mean, I had known who she was, and I think we'd spoken on Instagram or Facebook a little bit, but we'd never had the chance to spend time together or do anything together.
Yeah.
And then I got back from hiking one day, and I saw a post on Instagram. There's a free backpacking trip in Wyoming. It's based in the Wind Rivers. I'd always wanted to go to the Wind Rivers. And I saw that Amy was one of the hosts, and I instantly jumped in like, oh my God, is there a space? Can I come? Can I come? I know I'm probably too late. It's probably full. And they're like, we have one spot left. It's all yours. And so I drove to near Pinedale, where Amy's from. And we spent a few days in the Wind River Range hiking and cooking. And it was a girls trip. And it was kind of it was our first like in-person introduction. And it was really fun. We had a really good time, met a lot of awesome women.
Very cool. So, Amy, you're the one who put together that backpack trip. So, tell us a little bit about your version of the story of meeting Lisa and the connection that you guys have and the friendship that you've built since.
Yeah, well, I knew who Lisa was when I moved to Stanley, Idaho. I moved there in 2007 and knew that she was a really rad sledder. And I was just starting to get into sledding a little bit more. And so then when we got to meet in person in the Wind Rivers and hit it off really fast, I knew instantly that she was going to be someone that I would spend a lot more time with when we went back to Idaho. And at that time, I was leading the all-women's backpacking trips and had a few that I was guiding in the Sawtooth Mountains. And there was one trip that we needed an extra guide. And Lisa was the first person that I thought of as somebody who knows the area, has a really rich history with her family that's been there forever. And so knows the terrain and just a really great person that connects well with women and is down to earth. And so I asked Lisa if she would guide this trip with me. So then after like barely meeting each other, we spent a week sharing a very small tent, meeting a group of women who all also had just met for the first time. And the Sawtooths are just the most beautiful, magical place. And so it's just an easy place to connect with people. And that's when our friendship really became a lot more special and really got to know each other. And then that following winter, I really got a lot more into sledding, and Lisa has a lot more experience and more years under her belt. And so just having somebody that I trusted, that I could ask any question to and not feel like I was going to be judged, was huge. And so that built like a much longer friendship. And today we are trying to plan some women's trips together for sledding. And so yeah, I really agree with you that it was something that the universe brought us together at the right time, and both needed a friend at the time, and so it was perfect.
Yeah, that's awesome. And I think of what else would test a friendship than cramming two people into a very tight space together for several days in a row, and that is the moment that you either become very good friends or you become not very good friends very quickly. And I'm glad it worked out this way. So
yeah, exactly. I think two of my closest friends that I have, we spent our first week together in a 2-man tent. So it works out.
That's awesome. So real quick, everybody who's watching, as you come in, please continue to let us know where you're watching from. Drop it in there. We've got, looks like Michelle is here too, watching from Nampa, Idaho. That's I bet that's somebody one of you guys knows too. And so please continue to drop that in there. Share the show out. Again, by sharing it out, you're going to be eligible to win that, the first aid kit that we have from Mountain Lab. And then we also have the sweepstakes that's there as well too. So continue to focus on that too as you're listening into the show. So with that, Lisa, we're going to go a little deeper into getting to know you. So kind of we've done some niceties here, some small talk. We get to know you a little bit. Obviously, we know your name, but tell us a little bit more detail about you, your background, maybe where we talk about where you live now, but like where you grew up, how you got into riding. Just give us some background on you that we can kind of get to know you a little better.
Right. Yeah, I grew up on a cattle ranch actually in southern Idaho. We had cattle and horses, and we had a little Skidoo 440 snowmobile from the 70s, and my dad would hook up a rope to that and tow us up and down our dirt road on inner tubes or sleds as kids. And it was just the funnest thing ever. It was either the horse or the snowmobile every day. Like, Dad, tow me around.
That's awesome.
And that was kind of my first thing with snowmobiles. I have pictures of me as a little kid, just like the biggest smile ever. Like, I loved that thing. And then I kind of rode with my brother a little bit in high school. We'd get, on our old machines and go up to the warming hut and climb some hills, ride around through the trees. I always had no idea what I was doing, but I just get into the dumbest situations anyway. It's like, I think I can go up this, and then get up there and have no idea what I'm actually doing and how to turn around. So we had a lot of, I had a lot of good times with my brother just kind of in high school. And then I got out of sledding for a while, several years, and then in 2007
say it's not so.
Well, I moved to the city for a while, and it made it a little
happens.
more difficult, and it wasn't really a focus anymore because it wasn't a family thing. They weren't around. And then I moved back to Idaho, and some friends got me into snowmobiling, and I rode my first mountain sled. It was
Yeah.
I started on the 2007 SDI Skidoo.
Okay.
I got that sled and a little 600, and I went mountain riding in the Sawtooth, and it was just mind blowing. It was deep snow. I had no idea what I was doing other than
Yeah.
just hold the throttle wide open and try not to hit anything. Got stuck all day long, and it was just the hardest thing I've ever done. And for some reason, I was instantly hooked. Like I couldn't think of doing anything else. And I probably put like 7,000 miles on that little sled. I rode it
Yeah.
everywhere.
Yeah. Well, I want to interject real quick too, because you said it, and I want to reinforce it, is that for those who've maybe never tried it, like mountain snowmobiling, honestly, is one of the most difficult things to learn because it's not intuitive. It's not, because it's like
Mm-mm.
the same vehicle on a groomed trail performs one way, and as soon as you get off the groomed trail into the deep snow, it nothing you did on the trail will work off trail. Like it's the exact opposite. You've got to lean the opposite way, you got to turn the opposite way, you got to throttle differently, you got, like, everything is different. And so it's a very dynamic thing to learn. And the only way that I know that you can do it is just through sheer time in the saddle, practice, effort. You can take some skills, some training, some teaching, but like literally, like I've seen people get trained and it still doesn't matter. Like they just need that time in the saddle to get familiar with it. So it is a very challenging sport to learn. So
Yeah, it's always really funny when I take out new people that haven't mountain ridden or haven't ridden at all. And I'm like, okay, so when you want to turn, you got to do this. And they just look at me like I'm
what?
crazy. They're just like, I don't understand what you're talking about. That doesn't make
Yeah,
sense.
yeah.
And it's always so exciting to see that click for the first time, though.
Yeah, and Lisa, you also shared with me too in the pre-show that, and maybe you mentioned it and I missed it, but it's like I think it's a really cool nugget here is that your profession. What's your day job that you're doing now, and what are you doing, to pass the summers, if you will? So
Well, I spent about half of my life training horses. So I rode colts when I was younger. I did
yeah,
rodeo, ranch work, worked on ranches from Idaho, Nevada, New Mexico, and cowboyed and trained horses. And then I kind of transitioned into snowmobile when I started mountain riding. And now for my job, when I'm not in the winter, I am a logger. So I'm usually living on a mountain somewhere
yeah.
logging.
And you do that with your dad, you
So
said too, right? It's kind of a family
yeah,
business that you guys work
yeah,
together.
my dad and I are doing that together now. I love it. I mean, I get an entire mountain to live on. I'm in different places all summer. It's amazing. It's a beautiful job, actually.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. And how big of a crew do you guys work with? Is it just you and your dad, or do you have other employees that work with you guys, or team members and stuff that work with you guys, or?
It depends on the job. The last couple of years, we've had some smaller salvage jobs, so it's
Okay.
just been the two of us. Sometimes we have a couple other truck drivers. It depends. If it's a bigger job, we might have some other
Yeah.
equipment come in or a couple of different truck drivers. So try to
Yeah.
keep it small. I mean, a lot of the time I'm out there by myself, which doesn't bother
Yeah.
me. So
Yeah, and I don't think we've mentioned it straight up yet, but the other thing is that you are actually one of the official Skidoo ambassadors now. Like, if you go to the Skidoo website, tell us a little bit more about where that came from, how you got introduced to becoming a Skidoo ambassador. Like, how did that evolve, and how long have you been doing that now?
this will be my third season riding a Skidoo.
Okay.
And I think it kind of evolved naturally. The more I got into the snowmobile industry and the more I loved it and became obsessed with it, the more I just wanted to be in the scene. I wanted to be doing photo shoots. I wanted to go to events. I was doing everything I could possibly do. I didn't need to be paid. I just wanted to be there,
Yeah.
having the experience, networking, meeting people. It was just so amazing to be like involved in this industry and see how everyone loves it so much and works together. So I did that, and then I started guiding for a lodge by Stanley, Idaho. It's called Smiley Creek Lodge, and we really wanted to do some women's clinics. They were really excited about it. There were a lot of women in the area that were very new or hadn't snowmobiled, and they had rental sleds. So we're just like, let's put some women's clinics together. This is going to be great. And they were packed. It was such a hit the first couple of years.
That's
The
awesome.
lodge was full of women every week. It was so much fun. And that just kind of kept evolving. And Skidoo is very focused on women right now. They're really excited to grow the sport for women and see how excited everyone is to get into it. The women's scene is growing. A lot of women are getting into backcountry snowmobiling, and that kind of just turned into a really great partnership.
Very
So
cool. And you just this, I think, was it not this weekend that we're in, but last weekend you were in Spokane, Washington, and you were one of the guest
Yeah.
speakers there doing a little presentation, a little, I don't know what you call it, a presentation or a clinic, if you will. Tell us a little bit about that, and then we'll jump over to Amy next. So.
Yeah, I've done a few seminars at the snow shows over the last couple of years, which I love doing. It's always fun to talk to new women and get them introduced to new ideas and concepts. So I was asked to do a seminar at the Spokane show,
Yeah.
and I actually used to live right there, about 10 minutes from the show. So that was really fun to see everybody and see all my old friends there.
Awesome.
And it's really great to talk to these women. I had some women come up to me afterwards saying, wow, I just bought brand new transceivers. You convinced me that we need to be wearing these.
Yeah.
We need to take a class. You're getting me more excited to get into this deeper. I want to be a bigger part of my group. I want to be more responsible in what I'm doing and get more excited about it. And I love seeing that. If I can help one person either get some avalanche training or love the sport even more, then I feel like it's worth it for me.
That's awesome. Well, thanks for all the updates. You've had quite an amazing experience up to this, and then we're going to come to Amy here next, and then we're actually going to circle back and talk a little bit more about the avalanche education side of both of you guys' journeys too. But Amy, before we dive into you, I just want to call out too, we got additional people watching now. We've got Kimberly here from Zillow, Washington. We got Marcus here from Windsor, Colorado. We have Mike here from British Columbia, and we have Scott here from Puyallup, Washington. So thank you all for watching. Continue to drop in the comments where you're watching from. Please share the show out. Jamie Dunn is here as well. She says both women are amazing role models, so she's obviously following both of you guys as well. I know Jamie, I think she's in Oregon, if I remember right. And then I've got Stephen Gonzalez here as well from Arlington, Washington. And then Jamie is saying hi. She's doing some shout outs for you guys, so she's a big fan. So it's awesome. Yeah, Jamie, I've actually had her on the show before too, with the Wallowa Avalanche Center, talking a little bit about being an ambassador down there. So she's a great lady sledder in the industry as well. So Amy, it's your turn. Let's get to know you a little bit more. Tell us a little bit about kind of your background, where you're from, and I think I'll just tease it up a little bit. But to me, one of the most interesting nuggets is the fact that you weren't always a snowmobiler. Like, you were a snow sport enthusiast. Let's tee that up here as part of this conversation too. But let's just get to know you a little bit. Where are you from? What do you do? All that kind of stuff. So
Awesome. I love the teaser.
there you go.
Yeah, that's right. I got into sledding a little bit later in life, but I started out skiing at a very young age, and so I've been professionally skiing for the last 10 years.
Yeah.
Primarily big mountain backcountry, but it all started for me back in Pinedale, Wyoming, where I'm from. I, like Lisa, had a lot of experience with horses, where I spent a lot of time on horses and skis, and so having a snow pony now, just a motor, it's like riding horses and skiing combined. With a lot of throttle, so I feel like it kind of clicked because of that background that I have. But yeah, I grew up in Pinedale, Wyoming, and then went to college in Salt Lake City, Utah. And I was chasing that by chasing my professional skiing career, trying to find the best snow. Got a degree in the psychology of communication and outdoor education. And actually tore my ACL 2 years in a row once my second week that I moved to Salt Lake. So during that injury, got more into working on the PR and marketing side of things. And then after some other life events, I decided to pursue skiing fully, wholeheartedly. Yeah. Kind of like your motto of live large universe is you don't know how long you have, so live life to the fullest while you can now. And so that's part of what motivated me to pursue skiing full time. And really my first interaction with the snowmobile, I think, was when I was just a kid. At my grandpa Melvin's ranch, his parents homesteaded out in the Wyoming range. And so they rode horses and built their own skis just as a mode of getting around in the winter. So they were either preparing for winter or surviving winter, basically. So it's kind of immersed in my family's lifestyle. And when we were kids, my grandpa would tie a long rope to the back of the snowmobile with plastic sleds in a chain behind him and ride really fast up to this steep, curvy road that we would all sled down, and if you fell off the sled, you were kind of out of luck because he was just going to keep going.
Sounds totally safe.
totally safe. And then it gets better. You'd stack us up on the toboggan of the sled and push us down the hill, and you would just be banking corners and flying. So I think the love of speed and winter overall has always been a big part of my life. And then now jumping around a little bit, back to Salt Lake, I went to the Sawtooth Mountains in Sun Valley and Stanley, Idaho for the first time, and just completely fell in love with that place and decided to move there. And a lot of the backcountry ski access out there requires a really long approach. So I was starting to get into some more steeper lines and ski mountaineering type stuff farther in the backcountry, that if you wanted to get to those lines, you had basically needed a snowmobile, or you're going to walk on flat ground for like 10 plus miles before you even start climbing the mountain. So I started sled skiing, and then as I realized if I wanted to get to even cooler terrain, I need to get better at riding. And so started to leave the skis behind more and more and more, and started to get better at sledding with a lot of determination and frustration and grit. Like if anyone has learned how to sled, like mountain sledding,
Yeah.
you know how challenging it is. Like you're talking about, it's not really intuitive off the bat. But I was just so determined to figure it out, and could see that I would be able to figure it out. And so I would just insist. I'm like, no, I'm coming. I'm going to that spot. I'm going to figure it out. Like I'll get myself unstuck as much as I can, and then radio in for help. You know, I had this, maybe this is going down a wormhole, but I
Go
just
for
didn't
it.
want to be a burden on the group.
It's actually a common thing. I'd love to deep dive into that. So go into it, and then I'll keep asking
Okay,
some
we can,
follow-up
we
questions
can
too.
deep dive, because I had a journey, as I feel like a lot of people might not talk about it, but
Yeah,
it's kind of an emotional journey learning how to sled.
100%.
You're having the time of your life, and then you're stuck, and it's
Yep.
really frustrating. And then, you know, you need help a lot of the time to get unstuck. And so I just really didn't want to be a burden on the group. And so when I would be stuck, I would dig and dig and dig and move the sled and do a little squirrel move where you pound the snow down in the front of the track
Yep.
first, and do as much as I possibly could on my own first. And then if I still needed help, I'd radio in. And I feel like that really taught me that I'm capable of doing this myself
Yeah.
with the help of other people, of course. Like it is kind of a team sport. But it also reminded me to like ask for help and to get good riding partners that want to be there and have your back. And so, yeah, that was part of it, the determination that I really want to do this. And just because you have a hard time one day doesn't mean it's always going to be a hard time.
Yeah.
Like there's a light at the end of the tunnel, and it's just so fun. You can go to so many different places, and the more you do it, the better you're going to get at it.
Yeah.
And the better you get at sledding, you're just going to get stuck in more precarious places.
Exactly.
So just a reminder.
But you
like,
learn how to get it. You learn how to get out, so it all works out. So, no, I
Yeah,
think
exactly. There's a solution to it all.
yeah. Like I'm going to elaborate a little bit more just from my own perspective on this idea of like, you know, people feeling like they're a burden to a riding group or whatever too, because my wife and I ride together all the time. We're part of a snowmobile club. We lead rides in our club all the time, and we have, you know, beginner rides, intermediate rides, otherwise, all kinds of different rides. And it's actually a fairly common comment that I hear from people who come. They're always worried that they're going to hold the group back, or they're going to, you know, be a burden on somebody or something. And it becomes this like layer of complexity that really prevents people from learning, right? I honestly do, like,
Yeah.
because they're afraid to dive in. They're afraid to just go all in with it and just have fun with it, and just to embrace it for what it is, I guess is what I would say. And for anybody who's listening, you know, and I think, you know, Amy, you've articulated it really well, but I mean, for anybody who's listening that's in that mode where, like, whether it be you're out with your spouse, whether you're just, you know, a newer rider and you're worried about going out with a group that you respect and you think it's cool to go out riding with, here's the thing, is that everybody has to learn. Everybody needs to take the time and the opportunity to do it. And if you can find a group of people, and I would tell you that group of people for us is our snowmobile club, right? And so if I would encourage people, if you haven't found that group yet, look for a snowmobile club, because snowmobile clubs are intentionally there to support the community, right? Like there's a whole shift in mindset to some degree in folks who are part of a snowmobile club versus others who maybe are just out, you know, trying to find the perfect riding zone or the perfect riding area and the perfect riding group and whatnot too. And I know, at least from my experience in the clubs, it's always been people who are willing to share their knowledge, share their experience. And then same thing with like riding clinics. Like I know both of you guys have done ladies rides. You know, you're probably doing some level of like teaching and guiding and stuff too as part of different groups that you've been in. And don't be afraid to, sign up for some kind of a course, right? Whether it be a ladies only course, whether it be just kind of a, whatever, a Ride Rasmussen's course, one of the courses you guys are involved with, any of them around the country, they're all over the place. Those are great ways to kind of rip that Band-Aid off and just dive in, because I would say mountain snowmobiling is as much, if not more, of a mental, psychological game than it is an actual riding skills game. It's like once you get it out of your head that you're going to hold everybody up, that you're worried about getting stuck. As silly as it sounds, for me, the whole getting stuck thing, it was my gloves. Like when I first started mountain riding, like I came from the Midwest and you just wore one pair of gloves all day. That's just what you did, right? Maybe you had a second pair. But like the first couple of years of mountain riding, like my gloves would get wet, my hands would get cold, and it would be miserable. And so I started panicking every time I got stuck, because I knew I was going to have to dig in the snow and get my sled out. My gloves were going to get wet. My hands were going to start freezing. And it dawned on me one day, I'm like, you know what? I can bring more gloves with. Like I could bring 2, 3, 4. Sometimes I got 6 pairs of gloves with in my tunnel bag, lighter gloves, heavier gloves, whatever it is. And it just dawned on me. I'm like, I don't have to let that hold me back. Like, let's go have some fun now. So, but everybody's got their own thing. So,
yeah, I love that. Just to follow up on what you were saying, I've been spending some time with a really cool 10-year-old girl she sleds also. She's got a snow scoop, but we're looking for a bigger one. She jumps on the trampoline all the time and has these really cool tricks. Like she can do flips and twists and all of that. But it was reminding me of when you're a younger kid, you're not worried about being embarrassed necessarily. And so a lot easier to learn new things. And so I've been trying to channel that energy a lot lately, where it's like, it doesn't matter. Like I'm out here just trying to have fun and like learn something new. That's how you progress, is like, you're not going to be perfect on the first try every time.
Yeah.
And then the second thing that sparked in me that you were talking about is like when you go to those clinics or an avalanche class, the people there want to see you succeed.
Exactly.
And so when you like go to that and be surrounded by that energy and that atmosphere of people that they're there fully to see you succeed and to help you progress.
Yeah.
And then as you go back into your day-to-day riding, like looking for partners that also want to see you succeed, and just creating a welcoming space. And if maybe you're one of those people that, only wants to ride with the really good, cool guys, like maybe check yourself and like, am I making a welcoming environment? Just, think about the attitude that we're bringing to the group. Like how do I contribute to this group that I'm going to go riding with today?
Yep. Nope. Exactly.
Sure.
And the other thing too is, I think Amy has a little announcement to make tonight publicly, maybe for the first time. What do you think? Is now the right time? I think we should do it. So,
totally.
So let me just tee it up a little bit here. So Amy is somebody, like, it's funny because like whenever I do a show like this, I'm always going to people's Facebook profiles and I'm looking for pictures of people snowmobiling. And trust me when I say I found far more pictures of Amy skiing than I did snowmobiling, right? Like the history of everything too. And so this has like been an evolution for her, which is awesome. I love to see this because there's this whole universe of like the snowmobile industry as a whole continues to shrink and shrink and shrink. And I honestly believe sled skiers is going to be part of the maintenance, if not the growth of our sport. And so I love it when I see someone like yourself, Amy, who've, been really heavy into skiing. You've decided access on snowmobiles is awesome. And then you're evolving very quickly. And you've been riding a few different brands, but you have a little announcement you'd like to make tonight, I think, right?
Yeah. Thanks for queuing that up. Well, I'll kind of like transition into it, but I did my snowmobiling as far as like a sponsored athlete started kind of with the same theme that you have of like progression and growth. Where I applied I believe it was 6 years ago to be an ambassador for Polaris. And they accepted me onto the ambassador team. And they expressed that they liked that I was very transparent about that I'm like learning how to ride and I'm a skier and I'm, like that progression and growth and like being a little bit greener, and each year progressed and got a lot better as we went. And then was lucky enough to get invited by Polaris Inc. to be on their Empower Sports Women's Riding Council, where you get to meet with the executives and share the actual experience of being a woman or a woman in the power sports industry. And then was up onto their athlete team. And at Heydays, I got to hang out with the Ski-Doo team a little bit to give it away.
But I sense a change in the air.
A little bit. Um, but I just wanted to say how grateful I was for my time with Polaris,
Yeah.
from the experience of being on the Women's Riding Council and them staying with me through being a green rider to growing onto the athlete team. And they sponsored my first ever TGR segment, which is huge in the ski industry to have the opportunity to film with Teton Gravity Research. Like it's kind of a game changer and really accelerated my career. So grateful for all of that. But as my whole career is always focused on like what's next, how can I be more aligned with my own goals and with aligned with a brand. And when I was at Heydays, just talking with the team at Ski-Doo, we came to the conclusion that I was very aligned with the brand as far as being really motivated to get more women into the sport, and provide opportunities for more riding, and that's one of their goals as well. And then more avalanche education, and then bringing more storytelling into the filming side of things. Most of my ski career is based around filming and trying to bring more depth and storytelling into that. And I think there's a lot of room for growth in the sled industry with that. And so I do have my hat that I'll wear now.
There you go. Boom.
It is
Boom.
official. I did make a change, and I'm really, really stoked to be on Team Ski-Doo with Lisa this coming year and for the foreseeable future.
Yeah, and I'm
Very
honored
excited
that.
to have you.
Yeah, no, that's awesome, awesome. I'm excited that the official Skidoo headline announcement hasn't even officially been made yet, but you got permission to talk about this publicly for the first time here, and so thank you for letting me help you share that with the public here tonight. And everybody in the comments, go ahead and give us some thumbs up, give us some love, let everybody know that we got some Skidoo riders here in front of us, 2 Skidoo ambassadors on the team here. This is amazing. So nice job. And I'll dive in a little bit too. Is like I have been like I was actually a Skidoo ambassador for a little bit. 2017, they had like a regional kind of a local influencer program they were at, and I was on it for 2 years there. That's the only time I've ever been officially sponsored by somebody. But like I've literally ridden every single brand that's out there. I've had Yamahas, I've had Arctic Cats. As recent as 2019, I bought an Arctic Cat Alpha 1. Didn't give up my Skidoos, I'll add that, but like I had an Alpha 1 just to make sure I tried it and see what it was like. I keep eyeballing Polaris all the time, and I'm not beyond like moving there too, but I would tell you, for me personally, Skidoo has been just crazy reliable sleds for me. Like, they just, you put gas and oil in them, you ride them to death, and you wear them out, and you get another one a few years later, and they keep going. And like I for me, the reliability of the Skidoos and their performance is what keeps me on them over and over again. And so they've got a loyal fan in me, but doesn't mean I won't taste test some things once in a while here and there. But it's an awesome product, an awesome brand, and so I think you're gonna love it, Amy. So.
Yeah, I taste tested the turbo a little bit and I like it.
Yeah. Well, and it's so funny because like the brands keep getting closer and closer and closer to being the same, right? Like all the time I'm test driving like my buddies' Polarises or Arctic Cats or whatever, and like I kind of, when my wife first got her Gen 5 Skidoo, I rode it, and I still had a Gen 4, and I'm like, oh my gosh, the Gen 5 Skidoo is like getting so close to the same kind of a style of riding as like I'm on when I'm when I've ridden my buddies' Polarises and stuff too. And so like it's getting so close now with all the manufacturers on what they're capable of and what they perform. So
Yeah,
awesome.
it's such the Gen 5 is such an amazing machine. It's so
Yeah.
easy to ride. I had a girl come to a clinic last winter, and she had the luxury of bringing a Polaris and a Skidoo, and they were both a few years older, so they were the previous chassis, and she rode one day and one the next day. And
Yeah.
then we put her on a new Gen 5, and she's like, okay, I understand now how to ride all of these sleds. You guys have done well enough that I can carve, I can turn, I can do the things, but this one is the most fun. This
Yeah.
is the one I want to be on. And I think that translates a lot for women. It's a chassis that I feel is just really easy to ride with our low body. We don't need a lot of upper body and shoulder
Yeah.
strength to ride a Skidoo, and that just saves a lot of energy for me. And I feel like it's a sled I can ride all day long without getting so tired. And I find that a lot in my clinics. The women just jump on it, and it's just really intuitive and natural to learn how to ride it.
Very cool. Very cool. Well, along the way, both of you have kind of dabbled in getting your own avalanche education, right? And so let's start with Lisa first a little bit, but tell me, when was the first time you were exposed to this idea of avalanche education? Like how many years ago was it? How did that begin? And tell us a little bit about the evolution that brought you to, say, this last year or so, and then we'll go over to Amy. We'll do the same thing, and then I want to talk a little bit about how you guys together have gone through the scholarship program with ARI. Have, getting into your pro level training. We'll kind of come back to that too. But the beginning of it first, like let's start there. Lisa, tell me a little bit about your evolution of getting to the pro level idea of avalanche education.
Well, I started, backcountry riding, as I said, around like 2007. And where I live in the Sawtooth and Ride, it's pretty challenging terrain. It's very steep. It's very cold. So we have the challenging snowpack, have a lot of facets. We have a lot of persistent weak layers. It can be very unstable. It can be a very dangerous snowpack. It's very steep terrain.
Yeah.
And I got really lucky in finding some really great riding partners here when I started out. They were really experienced. They've been riding for 20, 30 years. They kind of took me under their wing and took care of me, kept me out of avalanches. And they talked me into taking a recreation course. So I took my first course a couple of years later with Sawtooth Abbey Center, and they are great. I love working with them. Right. And taking it with my riding crew was really awesome because we really got to work together and learn how to practice these things together and who's better at what and who can work on this skill and who needs to work on this skill. So that was awesome to do that with my riding crew. And then I kind of progressed as just practicing with them, and I didn't take any more courses for a while. And then I started to be a better rider, and I was getting into bigger terrain and steeper terrain and seeing more people get buried and more people get in avalanches. We've, lost some riding partners here, and I just got to the point where I felt like I needed to be a more competent partner. I needed to be more comfortable in, if something happens, I know I can do my very best to get my friend out, because I expect that from them. I want to count on that from them, and I want to be as equally as experienced, especially in more challenging terrain and traveling so much. I see so many different, types of terrain and snowpacks. So I started progressing in my avalanche training, and then last winter took my Pro 1 course with ARI, and that was amazing. That was a pretty crazy experience, just getting more into the science and technical aspect of avalanches and snow conditions and how a snowpack works and weather and just so many different aspects that most people don't think about.
Yeah.
And that's just been a start. So
very good. Very good. Amy, how about you? Let's go kind of through your similar background too. Like, when was the first time you were introduced to avalanche education? What was your first experience like from a class perspective as far as awareness or a level 1 or whatever it was, and kind of bring us up to that point where, you're getting into your professional level avalanche training, and then we'll circle back for the both of you to talk about the scholarship and what that's meant to you guys. So, but yeah, give us the background of your avalanche education and kind of how you got to where you're at today.
Yeah, I started out into getting into backcountry skiing when I went to college in Salt Lake City at Westminster College, and I think it was my sophomore year. So in 2012, I saw that there was an avalanche level 1 course offered at the school as part of my minor, and so I was also starting to get into backcountry skiing, trying to go in the side country outside of the resort, and then start ski touring before I got into snowmobiling. And I took the level 1 course there, and it was a little bit different than a normal, like an ARI level 1 rec course, because it was part of the school, and it was still an A3 approved course by one of the guide services, but just the way that it was structured was a little bit different. And I unfortunately was recovering from ACL surgery, so didn't get to do the full field days for that. But then I spent about, 2012 to 2018, I spent that much time just being out, practicing the skills, going in the backcountry and letting it really soak in. That's some advice I would give to anyone that's going through from the rec to pro level, is at least a year in between each course to really develop the skill set, because it's a lot of information and you just need time and experience for that to really soak in. And then I actually did the bridge from the level 1 rec straight into the pro 1. And so I can go into that now, or I can wait, because I've focused mostly on pro courses since then.
Go ahead. Sorry. Finish your thought.
Should I just roll in?
Well,
okay.
No, we'll pause on going into the pro level stuff too, but you look like you were going to say one more quick thing before you wrapped it up. So.
Okay. Yeah. Well, in that kind of like right after my Pro One, I started working at the Sawtooth Avalanche Center. Well, the Friends of the Sawtooth Avi Center,
Got it.
the nonprofit side that funds it, as their media coordinator. And
Very cool.
so that kind of is a different angle that I could talk about more later on how the pro courses are not just about like the physical riding part, but how you
Yeah.
communicate with the public.
Yeah, yeah. I want to pause for a second just to talk about the scholarships because you guys have talked about, your beginning of your avalanche education. There's a point where you're starting to get into pro level avalanche training, and I think something that I'll call out is that, there's two sides of this, right? And both of them are why we do it. Is one is that in the professional avalanche world, it's very, very important work. Like it's necessary work. It's for public safety. We're helping other people, those type of things. Um, it doesn't pay very well. Let's just call that out too, right? Like nobody's making money and, getting rich off of avalanche education. Like they're doing it as a project of passion. And it's very expensive to take the training and the classes, right? So there's this perfect storm of things that make it very difficult for the average person to be able to get into these classes and do it in a way that's not a massive burden. And so I'd love to kind of hear, both, and we'll start Lisa with you first, is, what the scholarship has meant to you in your ability to get through those pro level training classes. And we'll talk about that for both of you guys quick. And then we'll go on further of like, what's your future plans for your avalanche training and what do you plan to do with it? How do you plan to impact other people, organizations, that kind of things. But let's start with that idea of like what the scholarship meant to you and how it impacted you. So Lisa, go ahead.
Yeah, honestly, a couple years ago, I didn't even know it existed,
Yeah.
but I know Margaret Wheeler because we ride the same mountain range. And sometime it was August, she reached out and she's like, "Oh, did you know this is coming up? Did you want to take the Pro One?" And I'd kind of thought about it the winter before, but it was summer. I'd kind of forgotten about it. I wasn't
Yeah.
even thinking about snow at that point. I was just like, "Oh yeah, I should think about that." She's like, "Well, you only have 2 weeks. You need to get this in. You need to apply for these things. There's a deadline." And so I got serious about it and I started thinking like, yes, I am moving more into guiding. I'm moving more into taking groups into the backcountry, more clinics. I'm more focused on that aspect of snowmobiling versus just riding with my friends.
Yeah.
And at that point, I really felt like I wanted to have more professional training just for my own peace of mind, liability reasons, of course, but mainly just I want to make the best decisions possible. I want to be confident in knowing what I'm doing enough to take people out and feel like I can keep them safe and make good decisions. And for me, that means a lot of practice and more training. So I worked with Margaret and we got my applications in and I got my scholarship applications in. And that was amazing because without that, it probably would have delayed me another year without that scholarship.
Yeah.
I hadn't really planned on it. I hadn't really budgeted for it. And that was a huge help for me to get into
Yeah.
that course and be able to take it. Cause you're spending a week away from work. You're spending a week
Yeah.
at a lodge. There's a lot of other expenses with this,
Yeah.
along with all the practice leading up to it, the riding, the training, going out
Yep.
with Margaret and having her help me understand what I need to know, even just get to go into this course last
Yeah.
winter. So I spent a lot of time with her beforehand working on skills and digging pits and all kinds of different things. So that was really awesome. I went in a little bit more prepared for it. So I had a lot of friends help me with that and just like learning some technical aspects and helping me practice for it. And yeah, without that scholarship, it probably would have delayed that a lot. Even this year coming up, it's very helpful to have that option, to give us more access to this training that we desperately want to do.
Yeah, a lot of people who haven't pursued professional avalanche training don't realize how expensive it is, right? Like, a recreational course for a level one, they keep getting more and more expensive also. I think, I've seen them on average 600 to 700, $800, just for rec, one courses, rec two courses or that, and then a little bit more. But when you get into the professional level classes, it's usually kind of table stakes is almost 2 grand, right? Like, just for the class alone. Plus, you're right, you got to spend a whole week there. So you're doing lodging, you're getting there, There's expenses like crazy. So it's thousands of dollars to be able to do this. And the scholarship program definitely makes a big dent in that, and it helps a lot of people out. And so, just a reminder for everybody is we have this Avalanche Alliance Sweepstakes that we're doing. The link is down in the show notes. The reason we do that every year is to be able to support amazing people like this, to get them through and to be able to make a difference in the public, which we're going to talk about here in a little bit, a few minutes too. So, all right, Amy, your turn. Let's talk about, the scholarship for you and kind of what it meant for you and how it's helped you get to where you're at. So,
Yeah, I mean, the scholarship is huge. As we talked about, like, we're not making a ton of money. You're not skiing professionally, or teaching avalanche education is not a get rich quick kind of thing. And that's never really been my MO. I tend to go towards spending my days doing what I'm passionate about, and ideally helping other people. And so having a scholarship to go to the instructor training course, and then take my next pro level course was huge. Once you take some of that financial burden away, then I felt like I was able to really focus on the actual coursework and getting myself to the class and being able to focus and do a really good job without having the extra financial stress. And yeah, the pro courses are a lot more expensive, but you're getting a lot of in-depth information, and the instructors are taking a lot more time. And the motorized courses, you have your whole sled. Like, sleds are expensive, and so traveling there, having fuel, and all of the things add up a lot. And so being able to have that support financially, but also when you get a scholarship, it feels like somebody's there and is like, has your back and is cheering you on while you're going into this thing that can be a little bit intimidating, especially if it's one of your first classes ever. So for me, I got the scholarship for my instructor training course that was motorized specific, and then for my Pro 2 course that was mechanized this last year. But also Margaret Wheeler, again, one of our good mentors, her and I taught an all-women's motorized rec level 1 course a few years ago that Lisa actually came out and was a photographer and sled support on. And the majority of the women that were on our course as students got partial scholarships as well. And so I've seen the impact of it on like a wide spread of people in different ways. And I'm super grateful for it.
Yeah. Have either of you guys ever heard the story of how the scholarship started? I'm happy to share. I actually feel like I'm going to share it no matter what. But
I think so.
I don't know if you guys heard it. So it actually, I think you guys know the story, but I started it, and it started like this: is I was doing my show. I started in 2018 doing my show, and I can't remember if it was a year or 2 years in. It was probably around 2020. It was 2020 when we established the scholarship, so it was probably sometime 2019, 2020 that the show was going along, and the Live Large thing was starting to take off, and people were seeing I was wearing Live Large shirts and hat, and people were asking like, where do I get a shirt, or where can I get a hat, or whatever it is. And I'm just like, I don't want to deal with the stress of like creating merchandise and like now having to worry about if it becomes income, what do I do with it, and having to put it on my taxes. And because I'm a rule follower, I don't just do stuff and not do it the right way. And so I thought about it. I'm like, well, I don't want to make money at this, so what can I do with the money that I raise if I raise some money for this here? And I thought about it. I go, I think I'm going to maybe start an avalanche scholarship class, because the whole point of my show was around avalanche safety and education, getting people out there and getting them excited about it, telling stories. Right from the beginning, that's what the show has always been about. And when the idea to start merchandising and selling money, like, what do I do with the money? Like, I thought like, oh, well, I'll just raise a few $1,000s a year and maybe give away a couple of scholarships each year. It'll be kind of fun. I just was going to do it on my own. And there was actually an episode where I announced that plan, and I announced what I was going to do. And I encouraged avalanche educators out there. In my mind, I thought like, well, if an avalanche educator out there is willing to partner with me and maybe discount their classes a little bit, it'll help me spread my money further. Like, that was where my head was at first, right? I didn't even think about an actual like big sweepstakes or nothing like that. It wasn't even part of the original thought process. And so I announced it, publicly on one of my shows. And I don't know if you guys know him or not, but Matt Schabaum, out of where's he at? He's out in Wyoming, in the kind of the Alpine area, Jackson area. Yep. And they have, I think it's called the Mountain Riding Lab. At least that's what they used to call their business. I don't know if that's still the name now, but he was the one that saw the show the very first time, and immediately after the show reached out to me, messaged me, and he was like, I want to be part of this. This is awesome. I can't believe it. This is so great. And he says, by the way, I partner with Aerie, and I hadn't been introduced to, I knew who Aerie was, but I hadn't been introduced to Aerie yet at that point. And he says, let me get you in touch with somebody at Erie. And I thought about it. I'm like, I actually know somebody at Erie. There was a lady named Liz Riggs Meter, I think is how you say her name. She was working on the staff at the time, but she was actually a board of director member with me here in the Northwest Avalanche Center in Washington State. And so all of it started, the light bulbs started clicking off. So I got a hold of, Liz. She put me in touch with Vicky, who's the executive director of Erie. Very quick conversation, I think a 30-minute conversation. We came up with like a verbal agreement. We drafted it in an email of what it was going to look like, and we started it. And we still didn't have any concept of a sweepstakes, right? And so we announced it. I was doing it. We were talking about it. And all of a sudden, I was on a trip to Idaho one time, a family trip, me and my son. And I was popping into different businesses that were snowmobile-related businesses. And I think I stopped down into, oh man, I don't remember where I was at. It's there's so many different businesses down there. Like, it was like maybe Boondocker Turbos, I think is where I had stopped into down in, I think they're in Idaho, aren't they? And the person I talked to there said like, oh, you should go up and see Klim. They're just up the road. And I'm like, oh, who do I know at Klim? And I looked at my phone, and the name John Summers showed up on my list. And so I didn't know who John Summers was, other than that he followed me on Facebook. He saw my show a little bit, and we were friends on Facebook. But I saw he worked at Klim, and so I reached out to him. And just on a whim was like, hey, and keep in mind, this is 2020 time frame. It was like middle of COVID, like everything was shut down, offices weren't open, people were working from home. And John answered the phone, and he goes like, oh, I'm not in the office today. I'm actually out on scene, doing some, because turns out he's the marketing director of Klim, right? Like he's the head of marketing at Klim. And we started talking about it, and we had a follow-up conversation, and before I knew it, he was like, hey, I've got this thing we're doing called Avalanche Alliance, and we did it the first year, and it didn't go great, but we raised a bunch of money. We don't exactly know what to do with it, and I think your idea of doing the scholarship is amazing. Like, let's partner on this. And I'm like, okay. And so that was kind of the beginning of it all, right? It was just the seed of an idea. People loved the idea. It just kept snowballing. People kept getting involved, and now we do this annual sweepstakes every year that, really helps raise a lot of money. I mean, typically on a normal year, we're selling somewhere in the neighborhood of $150,000 to $180,000 worth of tickets. By the time we pay for prizes, net it all out, we usually come up with close to $100,000 or more, that goes into scholarships and everything too. Of that, I think it's like 30 to 50 grand goes into the Erie scholarships. The other rest of it goes into Avalanche Center, grants for motorized programs. And like, it's a big deal. It's really, really, you guys have experienced it, and you've even said it. It is absolutely changing our industry. Like, this little seed of an idea and what it's turned into has snowballed into something just more amazing than I could have ever dreamed it up to be. And to sit and see this year our sweepstakes, and I'm going to pop up the picture again here as a reminder, but like, just to see our sweepstakes right now, still sitting right now less than I think 3 weeks away, and we're only at like 30 grand that we've raised this year, compared to previously we would have been probably close to 100 grand already, and we're probably going to be 150, 200, almost 200 grand in some years. To see it so low this year, it makes my heart cry a little bit. Like, we're not quite where we need to be, because I know it's going to impact the sport and what it means over the next several years. And so I can't share enough that, guys, if you guys haven't yet, take a time, go in, check out the sweepstakes. There's a link down below to get 30% more tickets for you to enter the sweepstakes. And again, you can win an Arctic Cat Snowmobile, you can win a Marlon Sled Deck, you can win a whole full gear package from Klim. BCA here is doing a whole package as well too. And worst case scenario, you're making an amazing donation to help amazing people do amazing things in our amazing sport, right? That's the worst case scenario. Best case scenario, you walk away with an amazing prize, an amazing prize packet, and you get to make a big difference. And so, like, one of the guys here, Kyle P. Franklin out of California, 2 different years, he throws down tons of money every year, and he puts into the sweepstakes. 2 years, I don't think it was in a row, or was it maybe in a row? He won the Marlon Sled Deck 2 different years. It was amazing, right? And so people do win. People who are in the chat right now have won these big prizes and amazing prizes. So Kyle, appreciate you and what you're doing to support everybody. Anybody else who's bought tickets, thank you for what you're doing. Grateful for that. And you guys hopefully hear firsthand, or hearing the impact of that money that we raise and what we do with it and what it means to people in this, in the sport. So I'll pause there. Anything you guys want to add about the sweepstakes before we go into like where you're going with your avalanche training future wise?
That's a great story. First off, I didn't know all that.
Yeah.
What a great idea that just turned into something amazing.
yeah, it's one of those moments you just look in the mirror and you go like, holy crap, like one person can make a difference. Like just by having their head, their heart, and their mind in the right place, and just trying to partner with the right people, and like, and not holding it back. Like I never, like, even right now they've changed the name of the scholarship. It was the Live Large University Scholarship Fund for like most of the time that it was there. Just this year we changed it to Avalanche Alliance, like motorized fund or something like that, I think is what we call it now. And so, the name changed, but it's still the same scholarship. It's still, all the same policies and rules are related around it. It just was a name change this year, just so that, because majority of the funds are coming from this Avalanche Alliance Sweepstakes, so we wanted to make sure that people understood where that funding was coming from. Very
Yeah,
cool.
I mean, I've noticed like a big cultural shift in the snowmobile industry as
Yeah,
well. Like, there's a lot of dialogue around the Avalanche Alliance and the importance of, contributing to it for the
yeah,
scholarships. But because of that, it's just increasing the awareness of the importance of avalanche education and
yeah,
awareness and getting your buddies involved as well. And so it has some like subsequent effects as well beyond just a
yeah.
scholarship. So I think it's cool that you had an idea, you went for it, and
Here we
it's
are.
actually making a difference. It's
Yeah,
cool.
and I love the fact that you guys are the beneficiaries of it too. That just makes
Yeah.
me so happy. So
I love it as
Yeah,
well.
well, too.
awesome,
I
awesome.
have friends also that have used the scholarships for recreation courses, and it's helped them a lot,
Absolutely.
get the training that they have
Yeah,
wanted for years and maybe just haven't
yeah.
been able to put into it. So,
Yeah, and the whole point of the scholarship fund, regardless of whether it's the pro level or the recreational level, is it's all about thinking about it this way: is like it's planting a seed. Like I simply don't want to pay for somebody's avalanche education. That's not my goal. My goal is to pay for someone's avalanche education that will be a seed in the industry. So everybody who we select, they have to articulate in their application how are they gonna take this training and make an impact to others around them, whether it be through snowmobile clubs, through rides, through professional training, whatever it is. But if folks aren't able to articulate that they're in it for the community, then they're not going to get approved, frankly, is what it comes down to. And so it's as time goes on, the scholarship is more and more popular. We're having to say no more frequently than we used to, unfortunately. And so it is getting to be more and more of a competitive application process than it used to be. It used to be almost everybody who applied got it, as long as they met the criteria that we were looking for. But this year we actually had to make some tough decisions on, approving and not approving based on the budgets and the funding that's available. And I'm really nervous for next year if we can't, raise a whole bunch of money quickly. So everybody share it out, after the show's done, and even you two ladies too. Like once, over the next couple of weeks here, just share it out daily if you can. Just kind of continue to push that scholar or the sweepstakes as a whole. And 100% of that money is going in there. Like, it's crazy. I probably shouldn't even say this out loud, but I will just say that Klim is a major, major contributor to this program because they put tons of their own personal marketing money behind it and promote it, and they don't necessarily recoup it all back out of the profits that we make out of it, right? And so they really, really are trying to make sure that all the money we can that we raise from this, once the prizes are paid for and we have a website, the company who helps us with the sweepstakes, there's a company called Cat. We have to pay a fee to them and all those things. Once those bills are paid, the rest of the money 100% goes into it. Nobody's making an income or a salary off of it of any kind. And, even Klim is donating a lot of their own marketing budget towards it. So awesome.
it's awesome to see the industry support for it.
Yeah, yeah. So let's reverse here for a second. I'm going to come back to you, Amy, and say, like, where do you see your avalanche education going now, and how will you be able to impact others? Are you going to become an official educator? Or are you going to just apply it as like a kind of a guide? Like what's your vision for how you're going to be able to impact others with this new education you're getting and going forward?
Yeah, that's a great question. I've always structured my ski and sled career with two parts where I put a lot of effort into building myself as an athlete for film and photo. And so from that perspective, I've gone all the way through the Pro 2. And what I noticed with the Pro 2, it really applies beyond just being an educator. But when I go out on film shoots in the backcountry, you're off flex. And so, like, my final report in my Pro 2 was kind of around a scenario that I had while filming in the backcountry with TGR, and it's so interesting the extra element of human factor that goes into filming, where you're with top level athletes and there's a lot of sponsor dollars involved, and you have to perform at a high level, and you really got to do something extreme for it to even make the movie. And
Yeah.
so trying to balance like the ego side, trying to prove yourself side. There's cameras rolling, like three huge like red cameras pointed at you at once. Maybe there's a drone in the air. Then there's other athletes involved as well, and you're on the most extreme terrain, and there's just so many complex factors that go into it. And there's a lot of the times that I've gone out, we don't necessarily have an official guide, and so that's been also part of my motivation for getting my AMGA ski guide certifications, is so that I know that I can trust myself and try and be a positive influence within the group as well. I can have an educated opinion to share when we're making decisions. So on the athlete side of things, that's kind of where I see a lot of the value with the Avalanche education and going all the way through the Pro 2 level. And then while I do have my area instructor training course cleared, I haven't done the course leader yet, but I'd really like to take the course leader training next, so that I can organize and facilitate more customized classes. I like teaching the public, and I find a lot of reward from that and want to give back and have more people involved and educated, of course. But I find a lot of value in doing those more customized classes and adding a little flair to it, where Lisa and I have talked about doing some women's retreats on sleds where you incorporate avalanche education and then some riding skills, and then building more of a community atmosphere, not just you show up for the class and then you go home and then back to whatever your day-to-day life was, but trying to build in a little bit more community side of things. So yeah, I see the twofold, and the reason why I've balanced my career that way is, as an athlete, like you always have to be evolving.
Yeah.
I've had 4 season-ending injuries over the last 10 years.
Wow.
So having a bit of a marketing background and then also teaching and guiding has had a bit of a security blanket, but also I just like building multiple skills at the same time and trying to add more value than just like, oh, look at me, I'm a cool athlete doing cool moves on the snow. But like, I really care about contributing back, and the industry has given me so much and I want to give back, but also just be part of something a little bit bigger. And yeah, avalanche education is so interesting to me.
Yeah.
I have a bit of a science background as well. And so I'm very curious about the snowpack and curious about the way the world works, like scientifically, as well as the psychology of it. And so I just always have a curiosity to learn more and always be improving. And so
Yeah.
that's probably part of the other motivation that's brought me all the way through the Pro 2 level. And having motorized specific courses have been huge to balance the ski side of things. There's a lot of education available for skiers at a high level, all the way through international guiding certifications. And so I'm really excited to see the US and North America bringing more structured training for sledders, because we move through the mountains differently when we're on a sled.
100%.
And we communicate differently, and there's just a lot of different complexities. And so having that specific moto education and training instructors specifically for sledding has been something I'm really psyched to see and want to continue to be part of.
Awesome. Lisa, your turn. Let's hear about what your vision is for how you can impact the world around you as you go forward with your avalanche education that you have now.
Yeah, I mean, first I want to say that I think it's also really important and helpful for people like us that are representing a brand or kind of a public person in the scene to lead the way with this, to show everybody this is actually really important. It's not kind of a side thing that you should maybe do in 10 years. If you're in the backcountry on a snowmobile, this is very important to think about the first year you're riding. It's something that should do by example. So I really appreciate women like Amy and others that are leading the way with that and showing snowmobilers the options that we can do. So I am moving into my ITC this year, which is the instructor training course. So in January, I'm taking that. It's a week-long course, 6 days, I think, at Rasmussen is where we're having it. And I'm actually pretty excited for it. It's going to be a lot of the same people that I took my Pro 1 with. So I think it's going to be a really fun class to take. We had a great time on our Pro 1. It was a lot of sledders. So we were, getting stuck in the trees. And while we were learning, it was awesome. And so then I'll be able to be an assistant instructor under a course leader. And I think it wasn't ever really my plan to be an avalanche instructor. 5 years ago, I would have said, no way, that just
Yeah.
seems like that's a lot of responsibility. I don't know
Yeah.
if I want to get into that.
Yeah.
And then suddenly the mindset just shifted. It was an idea, and it was like, oh, actually, I do want to do that. And, I want to give back to the sport, and I want to lead the way and show people what can be done, and, be an example for other people. And I think, especially after I worked on that course with Amy and Margaret and Nicole, we had this all women's level 1 motorized, and it was full. There was a lot of us there, and it was really amazing to see the participation, the excitement for it, how comfortable all the women were coming together in a female only class. I know it might not seem important, but it just is a different dynamic when we do it that way. And it's really fun to watch that. It's really fun to watch how they will step up even more and be even more involved, just because it's all women and they don't feel like they're being judged.
Yeah.
And that was really fun. That kind of was part of the wake up to, maybe I want to be more involved in this industry. And just coming from the background and the location I have, where we've lost riding partners, I've seen some of my friends buried. I've had a couple close calls, just to the point of, I'm somebody like Amy. I want to learn. I'm always going down rabbit holes. I can't ever seem to know enough about something that I'm involved in. If it's something I'm going to put my time into, I am going to spend as much time as possible learning more about it, helping my friends learn more about it. And so I'm pretty excited to take the ITC this year. And after that, I will probably just keep going.
Yeah.
Might take a few years. Of course, it's a pretty long process to get through this and have all the practice in between of actually studying in the field, working with an outfitter, working with instructors to make sure you really, really absorb the knowledge and can really implement it in your daily use versus just taking a class and then forgetting about it. And I think the pro courses do that really well. With you take the course and then this is what they recommend you continue doing for a year or 2 years before you move forward, so that you really understand the knowledge and can implement it in your daily life. So I love the way Ari does that. It's been awesome to work with everyone there.
That's awesome. All right. Well, here's my reaction to both of you guys' stories. So I love them. Like, you guys, like, we're all kindred spirits, right? Like, we're all in this kind of just here to help other people around us, make a difference in the communities that we're in. And we invest in others around us just because it makes us feel good, and we know it's making a difference to the people around us. So, deep breath. Can you believe we've been on this for over an hour and 10 minutes now? Does it seem
Yeah,
like
I'm also glad this gave us effort. Was a special one. Thank you.
That's awesome. No, this is amazing. Like, and I told you guys when we were on our phone call or our pre-meeting the other day, like, this is going to be a good story. And like, I still stand by that. It's like, I think, I do these episodes a lot, and every once in a while I come across a story or stories like this where, it really, really is aligned with the values of my show and what it stands for and what it's about. And, like, this is 10 out of 10. Like, you guys just like made this an amazing show tonight. I really appreciate you sharing both of your stories. Please do some shout outs now. Let's say some thank yous, some shout outs, whether it be to family members, sponsors, friends, whoever you want to say thank you to. Let's go Lisa first. So,
I mean, first and foremost, I gotta say all of my riding friends, like the people that have supported me for the last 18 years or so, that have, gotten me through all of the insane situations that they've also put me into, and supported me in a way that is kind of hard to find. I mean, snowmobiling is a tight-knit family. There's a lot of us out there, but it takes a lot of work to find your little crew and your people. And when you find those people, it's game changing. It changes the entire sport. And so those people for me have been amazing, and they know who they are. And Skidoo, of course, has been amazing in supporting me and seeing my vision and seeing that I, want to move women forward and bring more into the sport. So they've been a huge support for me, along with Uncharted Society. I got to do that huge tour last year where I traveled all over the West and taught a bunch of clinics. I think I had like 10 clinics last winter.
Very cool.
And that's a lot of women I taught how to ride a snowmobile. So that was really fun for me. And I love that they supported me in that, because I just walked up to them and said, hey, this is an idea. We should do this. They're like, okay, yeah, let's do that. That sounds great.
That's awesome.
So kind of the same thing, like one little idea and it turns into this massive ordeal.
Yeah. Well,
so that's been really great for them.
When those ideas come from the right place with the right mindset and, your heart in the right place, people will embrace them. So.
Yeah, I mean,
Awesome.
I've been like all the rest of everyone else here. I started out as not knowing what I was doing and completely new, and I had that help along the way, and I like to give back and see in ways that I can help others get into the sport. So, backcountry access, of course, making gear that's helping us stay safe and support us in our clinics and courses and educate others on how to use it. They make great gear that's really easy to use. So, yeah, I've had a lot of help along the way.
Awesome.
Hasn't been me just by myself.
Yeah, none of us can do it alone. That's for sure. We got to lean on those
No,
around us, and we support others, and others support us. So, all right.
absolutely.
Well, I'll move over to Amy then. So, Amy, your turn. Let's hear some shout outs, some thank yous, some people you want to recognize. So,
Great. Yeah, this is going to sound pretty similar to Lisa's. We're pretty aligned with wanting to say thanks to like all our friends and riding partners. I had a lot that played good cop, bad cop when I was first learning how to ride, which actually is quite helpful. But I think a lot of it started with like my parents teaching me that I don't, I can start a new sport older in life and like don't have to be put in a box of are you a skier or are you a sledder? Are you an
yeah,
athlete or are you an avalanche educator? Like you really can
can
be
do
like
both or
a
all of them.
very diverse person and yeah, so just being able to believe in myself is a big part of being getting into sledding, really. But yeah, Lisa for being a good friend and riding partner. My friend Margaret Wheeler has been a mentor and good friend over the
Yeah,
years, especially in guiding and avalanche education. And then brands that have supported me, like so many years with Polaris of supporting me and helping me, staying with me progress over the years. And then grateful for that past, and then really excited for the future with Ski-Doo. Hearing my crazy ideas that I have and saying yes to them, that is huge. Not being put into a box of this is the way we do it, but seeing like great potential and new ideas. And then BCA, of course, for having good avalanche gear and supporting us being out in the backcountry almost every day in the winter. And then I have lots of ski sponsors that have supported me, but I'll stay focused on the sledding side of things.
perfect.
If you are a sled skier, though, I would recommend MoPro's racks for carrying your skis on the tunnel of your sled. They got a heated boot bag, and that is a game changer.
Awesome.
Um,
Are they
and
made in
then,
Washington here? I think I've heard that name enough times to think that I think they're made in Washington, aren't they?
yeah, the owner lives in Washington and makes them
Yeah.
there. And I don't sled in your ski boots is one thing I have to say. It's not going to be fun. But and then yeah, this year I'm really excited to go sledding with my partner Wayne and his 10-year-old daughter Cash, and that's honestly the thing I'm looking forward to most is just going out and doing it for fun. And then Airy, of course, for providing the opportunity to even have a career in this space and your scholarship and having us on here has been huge and made a
Yeah.
big difference for me. So
Yeah,
thank you.
my absolute pleasure, and I hope this is what I like to do is just if I can make somebody's life a little better, make it just help you guys along the way. I now are part of your story. You guys are part of my story. So thank you both for taking the time to be on the show tonight. So
Yeah, thank you for having us.
yeah, you're very welcome.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I wrap up every show the same way, and those who watch it all the time know. I tell everybody, God bless you. Live large. Don't forget, live life to the fullest. Make the most of every day and make a difference to others like these ladies do. So nice job. You guys hang tight. I'm going to wrap up the show here and we'll tell everybody goodbye. Everybody have a good night.
Good night, guys.
Yeah.